What's up guys, it's Avery here. If you want to build $1 million stock portfolio, the concepts are very simple and straightforward. And if you want to live off of that stock portfolio, then this video is for you. If this is your first time to the channel, or if you're returning and you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any tips for investing in real estate and things you can do with your money in order to build your wealth. In order to build a large stock portfolio that you're able to live off of if you want to retire early or have the option to retire early, there are really two things that you need to do. That first thing would be live below your means. That's pretty simple. Make sure that as you're gaining more salary or the amount of salary that you have, that you don't spend it all. Make sure you spend less. And the second thing would be stay frugal and make sure you invest that excess. So that money that you're saving because you're living below your means, you're going to invest it so that it'll grow. Now that we know that you're going to have to live below your means and invest the excess money that you're saving, how would you actually live off of your portfolio? And there's two main drivers that would allow you to retire early and not live off of an active income. And that first thing would be dividend income. Dividend income is going to vary with the share or stock that you purchase. There's going to be a different dividend yield or dividend payout depending on what you buy. And it's going to be smaller or greater depending on the type of stock that you buy. So something like the S&P 500 will have a 2% dividend yield, but a more risky growth stock may have a higher dividend yield. So essentially what that means is if it is a $100 stock and you have a 2% dividend yield, you will make $2 off of those $100 each time a dividend is paid out. And that is either quarterly or annually is how it typically happens. Dividend yield for a specific stock may also increase or decrease over time. So it really depends on what you're purchasing and what that dividend yield will be. And through my example, you can see that you'll need to own a lot of shares in order to be able to actually live off of that dividend income. If you only own 10 shares of that $100 stock, you're not going to be making very much money. If you own 10,000 shares of that stock, you're going to start being able to actually live off of that income. The other way that you can live off of your stock portfolio is through the idea of something called the 4% rule. And this is a pretty simple rule. So if you had a $1 million portfolio, you would be able to take out 4% of that every single year, and the portfolio would live on in perpetuity. So that would be $40,000 a year. So if you're able to live off of $40,000 a year, then this would be the reach and the goal that you want to get to for the size of that portfolio. And that's not including your dividend income. There was a study known as the Trinity study that looked at various years that you could have started investing to confirm if the 4% rule would actually work. And most years, except for a couple, I believe in the early 80s, it worked every single time where that you would be able to live on with that stock portfolio in perpetuity if you only took out 4% every year. And if you only took out 3.5% of your portfolio every year, it worked every single year in which they did the study. So if you're able to get to that amount and know how much expenses you can go through in the entire year, you'll be able to get to that number, figure out exactly how much you need so you can live off of your portfolio. So let's go ahead, take a look at a few calculator examples to see what it would actually look like, how much we need to invest in terms of dividend income, as well as using the 4% rule to live off of our portfolio. But first, smash that like button. Let's go ahead and take a look at this dividend calculator from MarketBeat. So we have the investment type, taxable account, the distribution frequency. So how often are you actually going to be making payments toward this investment account? How much you're starting with, and let's start small. Let's say you have not 500 million, but $5,000 in this account. And you have to figure out how much money you're actually going to be putting toward this each month and how much you're going to be saving. Obviously, the more money that you put towards it, the faster you'll get to your goal. But let's say that you're able to save $1,000 a month and contribute that to stocks. And so your distribution frequency would be monthly. So your annual contribution here would be $12,000. And we're going to look at the dividend yield, and I'm going to give the example based off of VTI because that is a low-cost index fund that I like investing in. And looking at it, it's had about a 2% dividend yield for the last 5 to 10 years. So I'm not going to add any increases, and I'm going to keep this at 0. And the expected annual share price appreciation, looking at it historically, is somewhere between 6 to 8%. So we're going to keep it at 7% in the middle of the road there. So if we're invested for 20 years, let's calculate how much we would make. So if we're looking at this example, and if we contribute $12,000 each year, we'd have a $620,000 balance on our investment account, and we'd have $12,500 in dividend income. Now, if you're thinking, I spend a lot more than $12,000, you're right, a lot of people do, so this doesn't seem like a lot. But if you're able to double your annual and monthly contribution and put in $2,000 a month, it's going to be a whole lot different. So doubling those numbers, essentially double the bottom numbers, which is what we would expect, and you can see how long and how much money you actually need to put in order to do that. If you're going to be aggressively saving and doing something like me where you're house hacking so you don't have a monthly payment, and if you're interested in learning more about that, check it out up here or in the description below, then you're going to be able to put a lot more money towards these investment accounts. So let's say you're able to put in $4,000 each month, and you can see how much faster you'll be able to get to that amount, and you'll be able to live off of more dividend income. So now a number like $48,000 could be a whole lot more for your ability to live off of that income. So let's go ahead and take a look at a similar example looking at this 4% rules to see when we could actually retire early. And this is a FIRE calculator, and if you're unfamiliar, that's financial independence, retire early. So what we can say is putting in our age, if you want to know how long it'll take you, as well as your annual income. I'll put in $65,000 here. Annual expenses, let's say you're being smart, you're only spending let's say $20,000 a year. Current net worth, because you started with $5,000, is that, plus maybe you have a couple other assets, so let's say $15,000. And you're going to be more aggressive. You're only going to be putting in stocks. You don't need bonds. You have a little bit of cash in order to get you through some things. And we're expecting the same return here. We have 7% stock return and 2% bonds, but we don't have any bonds. And then that cash is going to devalue with inflation as we would expect. So we can see here that we would be able to achieve financial independence after 8 years, which is pretty insane if you think about it, if you're putting a lot of that money in. And your investment portfolio will be quite large after that time if you're putting in the difference between that $65,000 and $20,000 of expenses that you have. And if you're going to be playing around with this tool, make sure that you put in your annual income of your after-tax income and make sure that the expenses are accurate if you want to get a good idea of how this works. And this is purely just based off of this 4% rule. This does not include dividend income. So if you want to be able to play a mixture between these two, you can see how fast you could actually get here. And again, obviously in this example, I have $45,000 that you're putting towards paying into an investment account every single year. And that's a lot of money. So if you're able to live that well below your means and increase your income, you can see how fast you could actually build to that $1 million portfolio in order to actually live off of your income or have the ability to live off of your income. Looking through those examples, there are a couple of different ways that you could approach this in terms of purchasing stocks. And my personal portfolio, I like to only buy low-cost index funds. To me, it's extremely not very risky. There's historical rate of how much you're gonna actually make as a return, as well as it's really hands-off. I don't really have to think about it. I'm just purchasing and buying into the economy, expecting it to grow as it has since the economy started. And I'm not gonna be actively picking out which companies and which shares that I need to buy. I'm gonna leave that important stuff to the people in the boardrooms who can make those decisions about how they wanna affect their company. I don't really wanna be analyzing financial reports, company reports to see if the stock is under or overvalued and see if it's worth me putting a lot of money into now. I just wanna be able to automatically put that money into that account and let it grow and not really have to think about it. As we noted in the examples, the bigger gap that you can have between your income and your expenses is going to make you be able to get to living off of your dividends and your portfolio a lot faster. And the way that we can do that is make sure that we don't have lifestyle creep. If you get an increase in salary and you're making more money or you pick up another job, don't take that money and put it towards buying other things. Take that money and invest the excess. Keep your expenses low. All in all, back to that first thing that I talked about, make sure you're living below your means, making smart decisions, and invest all of the excess money that you have. One really important thing that I want to note is that if you're able to get there faster, that's awesome. But please don't rush. The difference between being able to live off of your portfolio in 8 years versus living off of your portfolio in 10 years is really not that big a difference in the grand scheme of things. Is it gonna make that big of a difference to you to not have those 2 years where you don't have to work that job that you don't like, Or are you going to be able to have some more expenses so you can travel a little bit, have healthy relationships, be able to hang out with the people you want to, see the people you want to, and make sure that you're spending money on things that you care about. Don't make those things go away, or else you're going to be miserable for those 8 years. Your health and your relationships and your time are going to be a lot more valuable than any dollar amount that is associated with your portfolio. If you made it this far in the video, you're already way ahead of the game. You're going to be living off of that stock portfolio in no time. Make sure that you get that money to work, and make sure that you smash the like button, subscribe, comment, share with your friends so more people know how to do this stuff. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.